Tom, please
Kick us off.
start Bradley's session.
Bradley, how have you felt about how practice has gone and the coming off two outings you weren't thrilled about? How's it
We've looked and reflected, but that hasn't stopped us. Hasn't stopped our thoughts and our process and continuing to look forwards. So, we just have a look at bigger picture stuff. And we've broken down the bigger picture into many little micro pictures along the way. And it's still very positive outcomes. So, that is overwhelmingly the feel in the group. And interesting enough, we feel that we've accomplished a lot more, down this latter stretch, just from a whole structural point of view. We're pretty happy with where things stand right now.
Do you feel still have kind of an underdog status coming in?
Yeah, listen, I mean, we can spin it whichever way we like, but we feel a hunger and a desire and a confidence in the group, that's never bordered arrogance or anything like that. We've just been very disciplined and been very strongly opinionated about what we believe in. And that's very true to the group on a training day. It's very true to the group collectively and in the video and in our meetings and how we feel about our identity and what we should do on each game day. So that hasn't changed from day one.
And obviously Sporting Kansas City, a team you know very well.
Yeah. No, 100%. So, listen, I think deservedly so. They got through, and we kind of knew it and expected it. So, yeah, I think it's always, for us, it's less travel when we have to go to KC, and for them, similarly, we just get 2 home games against, a really good opponent. And I think, if we look at our home game format and the success that we've garnered, and when we score first here at City Park, we know good things can happen. So we've earned that, right? And those are in the record books, or those are in, whatever database you want to have a look at. Those points are in the bank, right? So we've collected a bunch of points over the season, and that's how we have to sort of appear on the field.
Next we go to Tom Schwartz.
Brad, I don't have a question. I just got a comment. I was in London last week, went to a wedding. The bride was Swiss. There were a bunch of Swiss guests. So I started to brag to them about City, and you may have heard of our goalie. And the guy's response was, heard of him? He's a superhero.
Sure.
I just thought I'd leave that with you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think we went to a Purina event just down the road, 6 minutes away, and there was the same feelings there. So
They were proud of him, man.
Yeah.
They were proud of him.
Yeah, 100%. I think every person in our roster has gone at some form or fashion of success, standards, evaluations, higher values, higher outperformance of previous seasons past. Tim Parker highest career goals 4 in the year. So I mean, we've done a lot of things as a group of collectively, and I think in every zip code we have a hero status amongst our friends and family. I think.
Next we go to Santi.
Bradley, in terms of preparation for the game, does the fact that City played Kansas a couple of times in the last month and a half, does that help in any way?
Yeah, they know what we're doing. We know what they're doing. At the end of the day, it's just down to who believes in it more, who feels better going to the game, who wins that first battle, who has that first momentum shift during the game. So these are all things that, yes, you can train through the week, but when that whistle blows, in that atmosphere, in that environment, so when you can get everything on your side and earn the right to succeed or to be successful, that's most important and long-lasting. So, again, I don't think this game's got to do much about the tactical battle. For sure there'll be shifts and moments and little tweaks here and there, but I think it's about the willingness, the grit, the desire, the determination of what got us to where we are, and what we believe in, and how we can pull out performances that we have recently. So
Next we go to Matt.
Coach, do you feel like there's been a level of consistency in your starting 11 in the last few games, and does that play into what you're trying to get the group ready to go into the playoffs as, knowing that any game could be your last?
No, I mean, we just, obviously there's form, there's flow, there's momentum, there's relationships of a certain group of individuals, and we'll go with a lineup where we feel, fully confident, but also fully confident of, the way we can change games, because I thought we've had big swings in shifts of momentum when we've made changes, right? And all for the positive. So that's what we're looking into. We know we have a group of guys that are going to be fully hungry, show full of desire to get their chance to play every minute when we call their numbers. So that's what I'm looking forward to, because I know the confidence. We have a couple of guys on that bench who've been big game changers for us. So we're excited about that going into these last couple of games.
Those second half subs, they have been game changers, and they've swung games in your favor a lot of the ways, but in this format with PKs being a possibility, does that play into at all what your tactical mindset is in the second half, knowing some guys might not be available?
Yeah, listen, the first objective is to win the game in 90 minutes, and that's for us. We have two opportunities, playing at home and then playing away, to seal the deal, and that's going to be on our mind. We don't want to tie us or bind us by any thoughts, doubts, prognosis, planning, 93rd, 97th, 98th, 100th minute, or whatever it might be, penalties. We want to, release the handbrake, and really go full gas ahead.
Next we go to Justin.
Coach, playoffs, rivalry matchups, they go a long way to, hyping up that internal pressure that athletes put on themselves. What are you doing with the players that haven't experienced like this level of scrutiny and pressure to help handle it come Sunday?
I think there's enough scrutiny and pressure in training. I think the players through the last 10, 11 months have had no off days in terms of intensity, no off days in terms of messaging, no off days in terms of what we believe in our principles, right? So, and that's what we have to do, right? So, and that primes you. We've always said we want to train harder than we play games in. So, we just keep on ramping it up and keep on doing our thing, and nothing's changed for us. And I think Roman said it quite well the other day. This is match day 35 for us. So we have 35, 36, 37, and we want to go all the way, right? So yeah, it starts with one block now in a 3-game swing and 2 at home, and a chance to eliminate within a 2-legged series. So yeah, that's on our mind, and we're going to be fully confident about going out there and doing just that.
Next we'll go to John Lupo.
Bradley, just two-part question. You're up for Manager of the Year, and Tim and Edu and Roman are up for other awards. Can you just talk about the credit that goes into the scouting department and the front office and Lutz for selecting the right guys and putting them in the right positions for them to succeed and for you to be up for that award? And also the experience that Kansas City has. This will be the first time, obviously, for this franchise in the playoffs. Can you just talk about, maybe is there a message that you send to the team, the difference between playing them in the regular season and the rivalry being ratcheted up, and what goes into being successful in a playoff atmosphere like this?
Yeah, I think the last few games of the season, teams were playing for their lives. Teams had a lot on the line, and I think 8 games ago, 10 games ago, whatever it was, against Orlando, I always said that felt like a playoff game. So just being prepped and primed and playing for meaningful games, I think we've always, challenged ourselves in little, next game mentality, next play mentality, stay in the moment. So, we don't want to lose the moment now based on what we've done. Bigger picture, we've achieved great things so far, John. And for that aspect, we would be silly now to start rethinking things and complicating things, because then you're just creating a sense of doubt and uncertainty. So we're very clear with what we want to do, and we've always remained clear what we want to do. Has it been perfect? No. But that kind of, we live in that realm of a bit of chaotic nature. That's the way we play. And we accept mistakes as long as the next response is really positive. So, we were really happy about that. And talk about the people, and whatever, the awards and nominations. I think it starts with the good people approach, and I think we knew what we're getting into with good people around us, and giving them a platform and a foundation and an ownership group who supports us in every single step. And I think you can see the culmination and the benefit of having everyone here at a certain time frame, and bringing in players who knew sort of the coaching style and the intensity and the levels it needs in and day out, and the collective nature of our sort of approach and our philosophy. But I personally would trade any of that in to go, all the way, and get out of this round 1 for sure, and then see where the road takes us.
Next we'll go to Casey Donnell.
Hey, Coach. Having spent a lot of time in the Red Bull system, you're certainly familiar with going to the playoffs. They just broke the streak for longest playoff streak, or the record. But there hasn't always been the most success with that franchise. Are there any lessons learned or that you're applying to this year that you learned in the Red Bulls in the playoffs?
Yeah, listen, I think that's very sort of immature from us to be thinking about that, because to achieve a status of 14 playoffs and break a record in MLS sport, getting to the postseason, in our infancy, to get, those sort of continuous stretches and performances, that would show growth on its own. So I think us just trying to forecast and project and think about what happens and if there's anything different, I do think we are, we have similarities, but I think we're totally different teams. And from that perspective, yeah, I've brought bits and pieces over from the Red Bull system and try to put it with other systems in place. And I've grown as a coach, and this is my first shot at this. So yeah, I think we've had fully supportive group and the ownership group, and Lutz has fully supported me every single step of the way to express myself in order to get a team to play this certain way. But again, this has got nothing to do with me and my learnings. It's just me and my guidance, how to get the players to have their own learnings throughout a 34 match day season, because only then they can right the wrongs, or we can right the wrongs in stressful pressure situations. So, yes, I think if we were talking down in 7 years' time and we have 7 times in the playoffs, I think that would be an awesome achievement to get 7 in a row.
And on a different level completely, can you just speak to the atmosphere that you're expecting at City Park and how raucous you think that will be?
Yeah, it's always been electric. That's one word I can put it, electric and intimidating. And that's how we have to dominate on the field. That's how we have to perform on the field, and that's been my expectation from day one. We want to intimidate opponents. We want to make sure that we win the battles with and without the ball in all phases of the game. So, we want to compete, and we know what City Park and the fans bring to us here on a Friday night, Saturday night, or a Sunday night, or during the week for that matter. So we've had a sellout crowd every single night of the week or in the season. And I'm expecting nothing less. And now that we know it's playoff games, and to welcome a really good, successful opponent that doesn't come from so far away is always a bit of added incentive.
Next we go to Matt Rocchio.
Afternoon, Bradley. Apologize if you already heard this one. I was just able to come in. There's been a lot of talk about the style that you guys might see from Sporting on Sunday night. If they do in fact, they play deep a lot and just kind of wait for you guys to make a mistake and jump on that. What's your best counter for that kind of style, if that is how they choose to play?
Yeah, put the ball in the back of the net. We'll start at circle again. No, seriously. I mean, they have some big game changers. On the wings they're really dangerous. Through the middle they're really dangerous. So they have, like every other team in the West, many different game changers in different positions. So they can manipulate the game in certain ways, and we just have to be one step ahead of them. We have to be proactive in our thoughts, not individually but collectively, and sometimes we have to help each other out. This is not a game that we feel we can just dominate them with the ball. I think our domination has to start against the ball first with our defensive principles. And then once we start doing that, I think we've shown, and not just spoken about, I think we've shown how we can get good success from games against them.
We'll go back to Tom.
Rasmus Alm wasn't out there today. What's his status?
Yeah, we've been trying to get Raz ramped up because we know we're better with Raz in our team for contention and in lineups and coming off the bench. So we've tried to get him up to a certain point, and it's just not responding the way that we would like. So again, it's almost like the one step backwards approach to come 2 forwards. How long that might be, not sure. But I've had a similar injury myself, and they just don't want to go away. They just stay around for a while, those types of things. And from one day to the next, you feel free, and then you can go again. So we're just in that sort of waiting phase. But yeah, I feel sorry for Raz because he's tried. He's tried a ton to try and get himself going again and to the benefit of the team. But unfortunately, he just can't do it anymore.
So are you ruling him out for this weekend or for longer term? Or?
Yeah, this weekend for sure, and then we'll see, because we're just going to shut him down for a couple of days, but I don't put him into contention for this weekend.
All right, Coach. Thank you.